Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about if we want to sell our product as is or process it further. Earlier we talked about the t-shirt examples. So maybe we make plain t-shirts that we're selling for $10 a unit because we're using the same cost that we have for the previous two examples. Or maybe part A or product A could be sold for $15 a unit if we add some sort of cutesy little coronavirus, strong together, I don't know, I saw quarantine, whatever, we're going to add to it, and one can sell them for 15 bucks. All right. So we need to decide if we want to do that or not. We expect that we have a market demand for 50,000 of the new product. So we would be making this new product instead of the old product. We'd be making silkscreen t-shirts instead of plain t-shirts. So we don't have to worry about the capacity is what I'm trying to say. Even though making an additional 50,000 would put us way over capacity, we would be making these 50,000 silkscreen t-shirts in lieu of 50,000 of the plain t-shirts. Make sense? Okay. If we do that, we're going to need direct materials of $1 per unit, direct labor of $1.50 a unit, and variable overhead of 30 cents per unit. Okay. And that's going to be our incremental costs. All right. So let's go down and take a look. I'm going to actually view this a little smaller and see if we can get everything to where we can see it at once. That would be a little better. Hopefully I haven't made it too small for you. All right, so first we want to look at our incremental revenue. So our incremental revenue is going to be our new cost per unit, or price per unit, which is 15 minus 10, and actually 15 minus 10 times the number that we think we can sell, which is 50,000. So 15 is our new price per unit, 10 was our old price per unit, and 50,000 is the amount we can sell. We think we can sell. Remember, we got our old price per unit by just taking the sales dollars and dividing by the number of units we produced, which told us that for product A, if we don't process it further, 10 bucks a unit. All right, so I'm just going to do that. So plus 15 minus 10 times 50,000. And that tells me that my incremental revenue is going to be 250,000. I can make $250,000 more in revenue if I decide to make the silkscreen t-shirts. Okay, that seems pretty good. My incremental cost is I am going to have to spend an additional $1 per unit. Since I'm only looking at the incremental revenue, not the total revenue, then I only need to look at the incremental cost. So it's going to be plus 50,000 units times the incremental cost of $1 per unit. Then my incremental direct labor is going to be 50,000 times $1.50 a unit. And my incremental variable overhead is going to be 50,000 times my incremental variable overhead of 30 cents a unit. And fixed overhead, I'm only going to look at the incremental fixed overhead. So I don't have to look at the original fixed overhead because that's already being captured in the original product cost. And so we don't have to do it here because we're only looking at incremental costs. But in order to do the silk screening, I need to invest in a machine, a new machine. And it's going to cost me $100,000 with a useful life of 10 years and a 0 salvage value. So if you remember, depreciation expense equals cost minus salvage. I know you guys remember this from 301, but I'm going to do it just in case, divided by useful life. So in this case, it's going to be $10,000 for the cost minus salvage value of 0 divided by a 10-year useful life. which means that I think I've got an extra zero in there, which means that my annual depreciation is going to be $10,000. So my incremental fixed overhead is going to be $10,000 because I have to buy this new machine. All right, so now let's just turn these into dollars. Okay. My variable selling. So remember I said my selling expense is 5%. I should say 5%. I've really whacked up your poor worksheets. 5% of sales costs. So 5% of my incremental sales is going to be 250 times 0.05. Because again, I'm only looking at the difference between if I upgrade the product. So I'm going to pay an additional $12,500 in commissions. So I'm going to add up my total incremental costs, and it's going to be $297,500. So if I look at my incremental revenue minus my incremental costs, make sure that makes sense. Variable overhead seems really high, and I think because I had an extra dollar in there. Okay. Sorry, now I fixed that. So my total incremental costs are $162,500, which means the incremental benefit of processing further is $87,500. So if this was less than zero, if my incremental costs were more than my incremental revenue, then I would say, no way, Jose, we're selling plain t-shirts. But as it turns out, I can add to my bottom line, even with buying the new machine and having to depreciate a $100,000 machine, the demand is so high that I can actually make an additional $87,500 contribution margin. So it's going straight to my profit because I've already covered my fixed costs of $87,500. So I think this sounds like a good idea. So we're going to jump in there, right? We're going to be a competitor to Life is Good, who's already making coronavirus t-shirts, and probably everyone else who is. And we're going to go into the business. So I need you guys to start thinking about catchy phrases that we're going to put on our t-shirts. And for me, I'm going to sign off for now, and we're going to come back and do resource constraints. All right, see you then.